song, silence, and prayer.
Take a breath, close your eyes, go within deep inside. The gift is always there to find. Open up, say a prayer, feel the peace that's waiting there, and the Spirit is never far behind. Take a breath, close your eyes, go within deep inside. The gift is always there to find. Open up, say a prayer, feel the peace that's waiting there, and the Spirit is never far behind. Take a breath, close your eyes, go inside. Take a breath, close your eyes, go inside. Take a breath, close your eyes, go inside.
It's never easy following that. Oh. So just opening to this moment, this absolute moment of perfection. Know that the loving presence of Spirit is right here, right now, in every moment and in every space and in everything living, everything there is. Knowing this divine loving presence that we are connected to at all times, that is the core of each and every one of us, that thing that holds us together and expresses uniquely. For I know that Spirit is always looking to express through each and every person, through each and everything seen and unseen. So grateful for this opportunity to gather here today, so grateful for the message that Reverend Bonnie will be bringing, and each of you that makes this Sunday possible. Just loving this opportunity, and with a heart overflowing with gratitude, I simply say, and so it is. So I don't forget it. Today's reading is from our Science of Mind text. This is in the chapter What It Does. Too many bookmarks here. Oop, there goes that one. What is this? All right, one more time. Get it together. Get it together, Bob. Been trying to do that for 70-something years. Since it is the mind which must first come to see, know, and understand, and since all future possibility for the race must first find an avenue of outlet through someone's mind, we shall do well to look to the mind for the answers to all our problems. Undoubtedly, we are surrounded by and immersed in a perfect life, a complete, normal, happy, sane, harmonious, and peaceful existence, but only as much as this life as we can embody will become ours to use. I'm going to read that again. But only as much of this life as we embody will really become ours to use. As much of this life as we understand and embody will react as immutable law, the reaction to the mechanical to the volitional. The concept is wonderful and fraught with tremendous significance. It is bound up in our hopes and fears, our expectations, and our future and present realizations. And so it is.
We're going to do a song called Everything New. This is Daniel Nahmad.
Bring it on, everything new, everything different, everything true. I am ready for my next thing to do. Oh, I know it's gonna be everything new. I'm through crying, I'm through waiting, I'm through hoping against all hope. I'm through longing for something gone that'll never return. I think I've finally learned to bring it on. Everything new, everything different, everything true. I am ready for the next thing to do. Oh, I know it's gonna be everything new.
I'm through grieving, I'm through dreaming that the life I had is ever coming back. No more wishing on someone else's star that'll never be mine. I think it's time to bring it on. Everything new, everything different, everything true. Oh, I'm ready for my next thing to do. Oh, I know it's gonna be everything new. I've survived many times before, broken hearts and slamming doors.
I'll be alright, yes I will once more, just as I did back then. I'm gonna rise again, so bring it on. Everything new, everything different, everything true. I am ready for my next thing to do. Oh, I know it's gonna be everything new. Oh, I know it's gonna be everything new.
Thank you. Everything new. Are we ready? Yes? And I want to thank Bob for all the hats he wore this morning. What a great job. Thank you. And for our music, you guys just sound better and better every week. You do. It's fabulous. You guys are going to have to make a record. Right? I mean, they sound great. We've got some new thought singing going on around here. So, good morning, everyone. I'm Reverend Bonnie, the community spiritual leader here at the center. And I am curious, I have a question for you. Who's expecting? Anyone expecting in the room? Woohoo, one. Okay, well, I am expecting goodness, and you better watch out because I think it's contagious. And the reason I think it's contagious is because a few weeks ago, my therapist, the woman that's helping me deal with the grief that I've been experiencing in my life, she put up a post on Facebook, and the post said, "We're expecting, stay tuned," and she and her boyfriend's picture was there. And a lot of people started going, "Yay, congratulations, good for you, this is so exciting." And I was going, wow, she's way younger than I thought she was. It just didn't make sense. But given that she was my therapist, I didn't think it was appropriate for me to confront her on Facebook about her age and what was going on. So I just hung back and I thought, well, you know, this is interesting. If she's expecting, that's great, good. And then a few days later, she put this on. I have an interesting sense of humor. Our current furry, four-legged little wild Bengal cat needs a playmate. Baby boy Bengal is expected to be born this week. And then 6 days later, she posted, "He's here. We are so excited for our little furry ball of joy to join our family around the end of March." So then, of course, people are like, "Oh, you fooled us," and wow, okay, now we get it. Now this makes sense. So the next time she and I talked, we meet over Zoom, I told her how I'd kind of gone, wow, you're way younger than I thought you were, and we laughed about it, and we talked a little bit. And then she said, "I think we all need to live in that level of expectancy for our good all the time." And we reminded each other of what Ernest Holmes talks about in terms of expectancy and how we feed our lives, our prayers, our affirmative prayers with that level of expectancy. In this thing called You, and I have the old version, but we are studying this right now in our class. And in here, Ernest Holmes said, "The law of faith operates with integrity on the on the definite idea, thought, expectancy, or acceptance implanted in it." So part of what brings about that which we are treating for, that which we are wanting to see in our lives, is that expectancy. And so I started thinking about what I had seen through this post. And I thought about how so many congratulations and excitement came through for her. And I was wondering if we live with that level of excitement in terms of our expectancy. And then the responses. Do we give that level of response to people when they're expecting something good, even if we don't have the full story, even if we don't really know what's going on? Do we have that level of support and excitement and expectancy for them in whatever that situation might be? And so how do we know then what people are expecting? How do we know what kind of expectancy people have in their lives? And I believe it's through the stories that we tell. It's the stories that we tell ourselves, and it's the stories that we tell others. What kind of stories go through your head about what it is you're expecting? What are you saying to yourself when something new, the song was about something new, moving in our lives? What do we tell ourselves about newness, change? I know what I tell myself a lot. So what are we expecting? And how are we sharing that through the stories that we tell? We talked about, and Bob mentioned in the announcements, this book a couple of weeks ago, Community by Peter Block. And in here, he talks about the importance of stories. Storytelling plays a noble and historic role in our lives and in society. Stories can give us a narrative to guide and instruct us. They are crucial to our knowing who we are. They provide a sense of identity. Some stories, however, become the limitation to creating anything new. We need to distinguish between the stories that give meaning to our lives and help us find our voice and those that limit our possibility. The stories that are useful and fulfilling are the ones that are metaphors, signposts, parables, and inspiration for the fullest expression of our humanity. They're communal teaching stories, creation stories, wisdom stories, sometimes personal stories that have a mythic quality, even if they come from the person sitting next to me. So that got me thinking, what are the stories that we tell ourselves? Are the stories that you tell helping you to give yourself voice, helping to bring voice to something that needs to be said in your life? Are the stories uplifting? Are the stories about possibility, or are they stories that are limiting your possibility? Are they stories that are useful? Are they sharing something about what you're expecting? And what are they sharing about what you're expecting to show up in your life? I shared last time that I think a lot about this community and how it is that we're developing community and what that might look like. And I thought a lot this week about the stories that I have heard from people over the years since I've been serving here. And when I first started, now it's been quite a while back, the stories that I was hearing were often stories about grievances, about what had happened in prior years. They were stories about hurts or experiences that people had that they weren't as comfortable with. And then there were also stories that I call glorification stories. There was a minister here early on, and people sang her praises, and they talked about the good old days when this minister did what she did. And so I heard both. I heard a lot of this amazing whatever happened back then, and couldn't we sort of do things like that? And I also heard a lot of the pain that had gone on in between that minister and my arriving on the scene. And I realized when I heard these stories all about the past, this was a need to give voice. People had felt that they hadn't been heard. There were experiences that needed to be said so that they could get them off their chest or off their mind. And at the same time, I began to know when healing was taking place as the stories started to shift. Instead of hearing about the past, I started hearing about where we wanted to go, what we wanted to see happen in this community, where the focus was shifting onto possibility instead of those past problems that had happened before. I knew then that we had turned a corner as a community. We were talking about how we wanted to relate to each other and how we wanted to be in community together. And I believe now this community is at another turning point like that. We have paid off the mortgage, as you all know. I'm so excited, I have to say it every Sunday. This place is ours, and we can gather in it again. And there's a lot that's different because of what's happened in the last couple years. So we're coming together, needing to look at what do we want to create? Where are we going? What are the possibilities? What does that look like now? And I'm curious about what kind of stories you're telling yourselves and what you're telling each other as we think about that. What stories are you telling, and are they limiting or are they enhancing stories? Are the focuses on the problems that we've had and all of the cracks on the building and all the things that need to be done? Or are they on the potentials and possibilities of where we're headed and what this place can look like and be in this community at large? What are you expecting, and what are we as a community expecting? I had a wonderful conversation with somebody in the congregation here today about community and how it grows organically and how community grows out of conversation. And that's part of what Peter Block is saying in his book as well, that the conversations need to start taking place around what we're focused on, what we want to see, what we expect to experience and feel in community. And so as we have these conversations, then we can look at how it is it grows organically. I think we don't really need an outline of to-do lists at this point. We need to start having conversation, getting to know each other. That's where I think we can engage the superpower that I'm calling curiosity this month. We're saying it's a superpower. Let's engage that curiosity to get to know each other better. What gifts do each of us bring to the table? It was amazing to find out the gifts that this individual I had a discussion with had and could bring to the table. And I know each and every one of you have those kinds of gifts. Start talking about them with each other. Get curious and ask each other, what are you bringing to the table? What are you expecting? What do you see? Again, not to create to-do lists, but just to start having conversation and getting to know each other. I trust the superpower of curiosity to move us and open the pathway naturally, and we will evolve as a community where we need to go. We have a new direction. We have newness in the air. We need to have discussions around how do we stay safe? How do we stay healthy? How do we gather safely? How do we gather and stay healthy? How do we get involved? What does involvement look like? And how does community evolve from within this group who's chosen to come together here in this center? And what stories are we telling each other? What are we expecting? As Bob mentioned, we're going to have a book study around this community book. And I think from there we will get into a lot of really exciting discussions. I want to invite the Zoom people. If any of you want to Zoom in to the class or to this discussion, we will make that available. Just let us know through the office. And if you can't make the 4 to 5 time period, that doesn't mean you can't read the book and start having conversations. Talk to each other after service, before service. The conversation is where we're going to evolve out of. In here, he talks about 2 different kinds of communities. Stuck communities, where fear is the overriding characteristic. And restorative communities that are associated with the quality of aliveness and wholeness. And that aliveness and wholeness comes through the quality of gatherings and conversations that we choose to have with each other. We're at choice. We're at that amazing turning point with choice. So again, I think our goal then is to have these conversations, start having these conversations with each other. Tell your stories. Share your stories with each other. Focusing on what's useful and positive, the potentiality that we have, and the experiences that you would like to have in a place that you call your community. What would that look like and how would that feel? So I have a quick question, and I do want some response. I'll repeat after you. First of all, are you expecting your good? Yes. Okay. So tell me something good that's happened this week. Just not a whole story. We don't have time. Yes, Sergio.
My younger brother, who had been in prison for over 18 years, and he's been out for 3 months now, he got his license. And that was really hard for him to do. He passed his test and all that. And
Yay.
He got his license and he got a car.
So Sergio's brother got his car and his license after being in prison for many years. He's out. He's doing well. So that's good news from Sergio's family. Who else? Something good that's happened this week. Doug.
Our daughter also got a car, and she's on her way up to Seattle.
His daughter got a car and is on her way to Seattle, relocating, right? Yes, so all that worked out. Someone else, something good. What else happened this week? Yes?
I was able to spend 2 days with a dear friend of mine who lives far, far away, and it was fantastic. We went to Silver City together.
Fun. So reconnecting with an old friend, going to Silver City together. What else? Okay, we got 2 here. Go ahead. Sherry? Mm-hmm.
I have been able to travel to this part of the United States. I'm from Maine, folks.
She's from Maine, visiting.
Way away. And I was invited to come and visit these 2. And it's been great. But the really wonderful part about the whole thing is how many new friends I've met.
So making new friends in a new place while visiting.
Yeah, it's been fantastic.
And we're so glad to have you here, and welcome again.
I've been able to have some medical attention I couldn't get anywhere I lived before, and I'm very grateful.
So medical attention she was able to get that couldn't get before. Yeah, good. Anything else? Gretchen?
A friend of mine who had a serious stroke about 5 or 6 months ago. When I talked to him last month, his voice sounded like a robot, and now his voice is beginning to sound like him.
So healing and evolving out of that stroke experience. Wonderful. That's exciting. Anything else? Beth in the back. She got a bicycle, electric bicycle, to start getting around town. Yeah. All right. Anyone else? I think I saw another hand. Maybe not.
Had a Valentine's Day party for my dog, which I got a year ago as my Valentine's present, but also for my community, because I publish a paper in the community and all the volunteers came for Valentine's Day.
So got to celebrate Valentine's Day with her dog that was her Valentine last year, and her community that she has a newsletter for, and they came together. Fabulous. Yay. Okay, so what I hear is that new things, good things happen, right? Good things are happening. And so I am thinking then, are we expecting more? Yes. Are you expecting more? More good, more of this to keep evolving. Now, what I also know, because this is where I go sometimes, is we might be feeling a little unsure when I say more. Well, do we really deserve to ask for more? Is it being greedy to ask for more? Does some of that go on back in here? And I've been using the word expectations. Are you expecting your good? And haven't you heard that it's good not to have expectations because then you won't get disappointed? Yeah, we've heard that too, right? That we're supposed to live without expectations so that we don't end up feeling the disappointment of not getting what we want. And so as I was thinking through all this, it started to sound a lot like when I spoke 2 weeks ago. What's this? We got 2 different messages coming into us. This, what I call crazy contradictions in the messages. We talked about curiosity kills the cat, and then we said curiosity helped us reduce our judgments, which was a good thing. And then we said curiosity was a superpower. And we said it really was true in all of those respects, depending on how we were using it, what we were doing with it. And so again, when we think about don't have any expectations, because then you won't be disappointed. When I went online, I found articles, 5 tips to live without expectations, 12 ways to live without expectations. And it got me thinking, okay, we see that message out there. There's articles about it. It seems like a contradictory message, and yet Ernest Holmes is saying, have expectancy. Live with expectancy. And I started thinking about all the different sort of what are seemingly opposing messages that we are getting through the world and through what we teach here. I've heard my whole life that opposites attract. Have you heard that? Have you also heard in New Thought, like attracts like? We teach that the more that you become love, the more you draw love to you, like attracting like. Have you also heard you have to face your problems? And in New Thought, Ernest Holmes says, turn away from the condition. And in this community book, he's in alignment with Ernest Holmes. He says, stop rehashing the problems and focus on possibilities. Turn away from the condition and focus on what it is we want to bring in. Another example, I was always told that love arrives when you least expect it, when you're not looking for it. Have you heard that? And we say you need to create a mental equivalent. You need to see what it is you want to draw into your life. You want to have an idea of what that looks like in order to draw it into your life. And we say, what you seek is seeking you. That comes from the teaching of Jesus that says, ask and ye shall receive. You've got this idea, you ask and you receive. Ernest Holmes again in this thing called You. There is no joy which you cannot reach, provided you first clear your consciousness of anything which would limit this joy in yourself or in others. Expect, accept, and ye shall receive. But wait, there's more. So here's another one that I've heard. How many of you said, I'll believe it when I see it? I'll believe it when I see it. And then Reverend Bram reminded us several months ago, and he was quoting Wayne Dyer and other New Thoughts teachers who say, you will see it when you believe it. You will see it when you believe it. And again, that's rooted in the teachings of Jesus that say it is done unto you as you believe. The belief comes first. And then, because of Valentine's Day, I was thinking of another one this week, and I was thinking about this idea where we're told, don't wear your heart on your sleeve. We're told, don't wear your heart on your sleeve because that makes it too obvious that you love. It makes your love too obvious. You want to protect your heart and not make it out there so people know that you're loving. And yet, we're also taught, again, the teachings of Jesus, love your enemy. Turn the other cheek. Ernest Holmes, love everyone. And he also says love is the grandest healing power in the universe. How do we love at that level without wearing our heart on our sleeve? How do we love at that level without making obvious that we love and putting it out there? I'm curious. I'm looking at this going, So I feel like I've moved myself back to where I get almost every time I think I speak, and that's the realm of both and. I talked about it with the curiosity kills the cat. If we're looking at the cat as a connection or a relationship, and we're using curiosity in a way to gossip and to gather information, and we have ill intent, it can kill the cat. But it also, when it's a genuine intent to get to know someone, it can reduce judgment, and it can become that superpower that binds and heals us back together. And likewise, I think each and every one of these things where I've showed you what looks like contradictions, there's a little truth in all of it. There's ways that, depending on what we're focusing on, we can have examples of either side of what I'm seeing as opposition. And I see that because basically God is expressing in and through all things. And it reminded me, I was kind of moving in the Bible this week for some reason. It reminded me of Ecclesiastes, and you've probably heard this through a song. A time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. And depending on the translation, there's a lot more that were given as examples, wrapped up with a time for everything under heaven. And again, if we say it's all God, there's no way that any of it can be outside of God. And so then how do we know which truth or which adage that we're to follow or focus on? Which one is to inspire us in this moment for this day? How do we live the both and? Well, I think recently we've learned how to do that, and we've started experiencing it in regard to what we're doing as community. We learned how to do community and be isolated at the same time. We learned how to stay connected while we were alone. Some of us completely alone. Some of us shared a house or a space. When I was growing up, there was a phone ad that said, reach out and touch somebody. You remember that one? And I think we quickly learned. I was amazed at how fast advertising changed, activities changed. We reached out and touched each other through Zoom, through phone, through text, FaceTime, and so many more. We figured out how to do community. Graduation. The entire nation did a graduation for all the high school kids together. It was amazing to me how quickly we were able to do community and still stay alone, isolated in our own spaces. So back to my original focus for this morning when I was looking at this, how do we protect ourselves then from disappointments by not having expectations while we are expecting our good? How do we infuse our affirmations, our affirmative prayers with expectancy? How do we do this? Well, Ernest Holmes in this thing called You says, good will come to you if you affirm its presence. Learn how to think abundantly. Think of the vastness of everything, the limitlessness of space, the numberless grains of sand on the seashore. Learn to see abundance in everything, to multiply the good you already possess. Be consciously one with the law of abundance. Expectancy will speed your progress. And further on in the same chapter, he says, again, expectancy speeds progress. Therefore, live in a continual state of expectancy. And again, you're probably going, well, how? How do we do this? And in the Science of Mind text, Ernest Holmes said, if we were treating for activity in a store we owned in Boston, so let me just clarify for some people who might not know our terminology. Treating is a term that we use for affirmative prayer. So we could say if we were praying for someone, they wanted more activity in their store, they wanted more customers. He says if we were treating for this store to have more activity in Boston, we would not be treating someone in Kalamazoo for the mumps and expect that the store would demonstrate more success. He said, we must be specific in what we do while at the same time never outlining how it shall be done. Remember, we are dealing with intelligence. It is going to evolve our concept exactly as we involve it. And I think that's the key. We expect our good. We expect it without outlining exactly how it's going to show up. We put out the prayer with the idea that we want to see our good show up in whatever the situation is, so we can name that situation, whether it's the store or the mumps, whatever, healing, and we expect our good, how it's going to show up, we let that evolve naturally out of the process. When we do affirmative prayer, we work on visualizing what it is we want to see. And we get excited and increase our expectancy based on the stories we tell ourselves about what it is that we want to see. Are we telling ourselves, oh, I don't think I deserve that? Or that's asking way too much. Maybe I better dial it back a little. What are we telling ourselves? And how is that related to what we're expecting? When we know that God is good, are we expecting that goodness to show up in some way? When we do affirmative prayer, the third step we refer to as recognition. There are 5 steps in affirmative prayer the way we're teaching it today. And that third step we call recognition. And in that third step, when we're putting these prayers together in our minds, if we're writing them down because you're in class with me, that third step is where we start telling the story. We start talking about to ourselves, what does it look like? What does it feel like? Without specific, it has to be exactly like this. We're looking for the experience. We're getting excited about knowing that that experience is real in our lives. And we open with expectancy to allowing it to evolve, because there's always things that we don't even know yet. There might be somebody we meet that we don't even know we're going to meet that is key to seeing this thing show up in our life. So we stay open, we have the expectancy, and we get excited because it's that energy of excitement and expectancy that makes it so. So, what would life look like if we lived every day in this level of expectancy? And what stories would you start to tell the world? So I'm going to ask you again, and I'm going to get out here if Bob can follow me. Who here in this room is expecting? Woo-hoo. Okay, are you expecting you're good? Yes. Okay. I totally trust that good is at hand. I want you to share the stories with each other of what that good looks like after the service over the next several weeks, because I am curious and I want to hear those stories too. And so it is. So let's just take that. If we have any practitioners that can surround the room, I think Bob needs to stay. Oh, good, he can stand right there. Poor Bob, he's had to do everything today. So he's available for prayer, even though he'll be here, yes? And so am I. And just know that as you do your prayer work, whether it's alone or call a practitioner, you're going to be looking at that idea of what do we expect. So let's go within. And let's just breathe into that center space, our heart space, that place that connects us to all that is. And as we recognize the allness of God, expressing in and through all things at all times with good and joy and peace and harmony and health as that greater truth of expression, we open ourselves to recognize and experience and tell stories to ourselves and others about the good that is ours, that is showing up in our lives, that we are expecting. And as we have that feeling of expectancy, we can move into gratitude. So grateful for this community, this place to come together, and for what is yet to be as an expression of this community in the larger Las Cruces and the world. So with gratitude and great expectancy, we can say together, and so it is. Thank you.
I'm going to do an instrumental piece today. This is Jim Brinkman's version of Amazing Grace, and I just love the concept of grace, and I think it really kind of flows with what we've been talking about, just this power and this goodness that is even greater than anything that we can ask or imagine.
Thank you, Sarah. I could see everybody just sort of settling into that. That was beautiful. Thank you so much. I always expect something good out of that music department over there. And I'm never disappointed. Thank you again. And so at this time, we consider how it is that we give back to the center. And this month, our tithing goes from us out into the community to the Children's Reading Alliance, which is focusing on advancing children's literacy in Doña Ana County. And they've proven that as we read with our children, it helps to increase what we can expect them to do and their success levels out in the world. So we are seeing them supported through this with 10% of all that comes through the center. And again, I'm encouraging any of you that feel called to find ways to read to children. Grandchildren go to the schools. Sometimes they're looking for volunteers, because reading to our kids is just an amazing gift. And so let's say our gratitude for all that is showing up in our lives. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God, in me. And we will sing, I am so blessed. And I hope you feel blessed today, and just let that move through you.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed.
And so I feel blessed just seeing each and every one of you out there. Please welcome the people that are visiting here for the first time. Once again, I'm glad you made it from Maine, and we hope to see you back here again sometime. And to anyone else who's visiting or just trying us out, we do have a new member orientation after the service. If you're interested in joining, let me know. Let us stand and sing our closing song, the peace song.